For months I've been saying Long Island's market is steady. Sometimes I feel like these videos just sound the same because I'm saying the numbers are so similar. This is the first time that I can honestly say that the signs of change are really starting to, show up. It hasn't hit the stats yet, but the trend lines are moving. And if rates keep falling, expect out this last quarter of 2025 to be much more active than the first half. Hey everybody, welcome to Long Island Real Estate with me, Sal Catalano. If you've been following these updates, then you'll know that we've been talking about consistency all summer. And all year, honestly. Month after month, the Long Island market has looked relatively the same. Every month, inventory creeps a little bit lower, prices creep a little bit higher, and the homes sell fast. And August was no different. It was right on trend. But this month, we have to look at some of the larger forces that are at play. Other than that, we're going to take a look locally around what's going on in Long Island. We got a development going on in Patchogue I'm going to touch on. And we're going to talk about the rebuild of one of Long Island's most iconic restaurants. And then at the end, we're going to dive into the interest rates a little bit because they've hit their lowest level of the year. And it's about to change the equation for buyers and sellers in a way that we haven't seen in a while. So let's get started. All right, starting off in Suffolk County. Sellers continue to hold the advantage, but buyers are moving quickly to compete. The average sales price was $700,000, which was up just a little bit from July, but it was up more than 7% from a year ago. The months of inventory was 3.26, which was down 7.1% from last month and nearly 9% from last year. The average days on the market, 28, which is about where we've been, but is still super fast. And the sold to list ratio is 102.2%. So people are still on average getting, above asking for their home when they list it. On paper, that looks almost identical to July. But here's what's really happening. Buyers are adjusting to the market. And again, this is something we've been talking about because more homes are coming onto the market, but they're being absorbed quickly. We've been talking about absorption. And that's why inventory keeps tightening. We're still seeing multiple offer situations, not just on the under $600,000 range, but also in that $700,000 to $900,000 sweet spot, especially in favorable neighborhoods or preferred school districts that people have. Sellers are confident, but they're also realistic. When they price right, the homes are moving. When they overprice, they're sitting, which is why inventory in certain spots can look deceptively higher. The other thing to watch is how Suffolk reacts to the dropping rates. Obviously a $700,000 home at 7% versus 6.5 makes a big difference in monthly payments. So if that keeps trending lower, Suffolk buyers will get bolder and that will add fuel to an already competitive market. All right, now let's take a look over at Nassau. Nassau's market's a little bit tighter, faster, and more price sensitive than Suffolk's is. So the medium sales price, $870,000, which is up 1.2% from July and 5.4% from last year. So a bigger jump than Suffolk over in average sales price. The months of inventory is at 2.88, which is super low to be below 3%. And that's down 11.1% in just 1 month from last month. That is incredibly low inventory in Nassau. The average days on the market is 27, which is down 8%, probably because there are barely any houses out there. And the sold to list ratio is 101.1%. They are still getting above asking in Nassau, which makes sense from the other numbers. It would be crazy if they weren't. So homes are moving quickly. Many in less than 4 weeks, and sellers are consistently getting over asking. But the nuance here is that Nassau is a tale of two markets. Homes under 1 million, competition is fierce. Buyers in that range are, younger families, first-time move-ups, and commuters looking for, short rides into the city. Those homes are still attracting 10, 12, 15 showings in the first weekend, packed open houses. For the higher end, especially over the 1.3 million, buyers are more cautious. They're selective, they negotiate harder, and those homes are sitting longer unless they're turnkey. And this is exactly, again, where interest rates come back into play. because as rates drop, higher priced homes are going to become more accessible. And that could be the trigger that wakes up the upper end of the Nassau market heading into the fall. And considering how low those numbers are, inventory and days on market, that would only jump higher if the buyer pool just increased that much. So very, very high seller's market in Nassau. All right, so my big takeaway for August is this. Those numbers look the same, but the undercurrent is shifting. Rates are coming down, which we've talked about, and that is going to impact buyer confidence and seller motivation. For months, I've been saying Long Island's market is steady. Sometimes I feel like these videos just sound the same because I'm saying the numbers are so similar. This is the first time that I can honestly say that the signs of change are really starting to, show up. It hasn't hit the stats yet, but the trend lines are moving. And if rates keep falling, expect out this last quarter of 2025 to be much more active than the first half. All right, now let's zoom out and look at what's just some stuff that's happening around Long Island. So in Patchogue, demolition is officially underway for the $160 million carriage house apartments. This project is going to bring hundreds of new rentals, ground floor retail, and add to Patchogue's momentum as one of the most revitalized downtowns on Long Island. It's a clear example of how investment keeps reshaping our communities. Another thing, just down the road over in East Patchogue, this is a little sad to me personally. The McDonald's we all grew up with in East Patchogue, which has the classic McDonald's roof. Up until very recently, it was one of the last ones in the nation that had an outdoor playground. That is being torn down and it is being replaced with one of the new modern boxes, essentially, that look exactly the same as all the other fast food restaurants. And look, I get it. I get all the reasons for it. But still, man, does Ronald McDonald know about this? These things, what happened? What happened to McDonald's? Anyway, on a serious note, even small rebuilds like this show how the commercial landscape is evolving. Whether it's large-scale apartments or fast food updates, these projects change the way neighborhoods look and feel, and that eventually impacts housing demand and property values too. So it's always something to look into. That's why I keep up on it, and that's why I keep including it in this stuff. All right, nationally, the biggest story isn't lawsuits or platform battles this month. It's interest rates. And I don't usually harp on interest rates or even really like to talk about them specifically in videos because by the time I upload this, the interest rate's going to change. So I'm not going to get into specific numbers either. But the bigger trend is undeniable. Rates are at their lowest levels of the year. Has started a continuing trend. And here's why this matters. Buyers suddenly have much more purchasing power and will continue to get more as the rates lower. That $500,000 home costs less to finance than it did a few months ago. That'll bring sideline buyers back into the hunt. On the flip side, sellers who've been locked into a 3% mortgage, who aren't necessarily in a house they love or they've grown out of or whatever, have been saying, why move? I can't afford to give this rate up. They've been in what's called rate lock. But if today's rates feel more reasonable, some of those sellers are going to test out the waters and they're going to jump in and they're going to sell that and they're going to cash that equity in and get exactly what they want. And frankly, that's the shift we've been waiting to see. As we've had months of stability, but the lower rates are the lever that can unlock supply and unlock demand. So I'm not going to get into politics here or anything, but the signals are pointing to rates continuing to ease throughout the rest of the year. And if that holds true, the last few months of 2025 could be the busiest that we've seen in a while. And quite frankly, I'm super excited about it. Sounds awesome. All right, so that's your August 2025 Long Island real estate market update. On paper, the numbers look the same, but the story behind them is the interest rates shifting affordability, and signs that more movement is coming. And in local development projects reshaping communities like Patchogue, you can see how the micro and macro forces are lining up to push this market forward. So if you're a seller, this is a great time to prepare to hit the market strategically. If you're a buyer, don't assume waiting will make things easier. Lower rates often mean much more competition. So if you want to talk about what all this means to you or for your neighborhood or your goals, I would absolutely love to connect. All my information is below. It's on the channel. I'm sure you can find me at Sal_Catalano_real estate on Instagram and every other social media. Other than that, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and turn on the bell to get alerts so you do not miss next month's update. And I will see you then. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of September.